Yo, welcome back to this next episode of Minta Foundry Breakdowns. We're at episode 7 right now. Shout out to everybody who checked out the last episode that was already a bit longer, the extended format with the follower questions. And also one of the new segments was me playing some of the new music that I worked on. I'm very excited to keep building this podcast. I actually have a brand new segment that we're gonna introduce later in this episode, so stay tuned for that. So as always, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. My name is El Hog, and this is Minta Foundry Breakdowns. Alright, so last week we did the breakdown of this jazz sample that I called Oslo. When we got to the master chain, I mentioned this secret plugin that we've been working on at Minta Foundry. And some of you were involved enough with what's been going on at Minta Foundry in the last year that Patina, the web app which lives on our website and is a fully web-based, fully functioning vinyl emulation plugin, is finally coming to your DAW as a audio unit and VST3. Yep, that's right. Patina, our vinyl emulation engine, is now a real-time audio effect. So the breakdown section of today's episode is going to be slightly different. Instead of taking a finished sample and looking at how it was built up, we're going to take a work in progress and get it across the finish line using Patina. Now, before all you North Americans come at me with like, oh, actually it's pronounced patina, and all you UK people are like, oh, it's actually called patina. This is a Swiss product, and in Switzerland we say patina. I can't actually remember how we came up with the word, but the name fits perfectly because, and I'm quoting here, patina is the thin layer that forms on the surface of materials over time due to aging, exposure, and chemical reactions. Like, I think that's the perfect name for a vinyl emulation plugin. Alright, this is going to be a very unique experience as you'll be able to hear the plugin in action without seeing the UI first. But let me tell you, the user interface of this plugin is absolutely banging. There's a German word called Wimmelbild, and it translates to busy picture or crowded illustration. And what it basically is, it's like these Where's Waldo style of illustrations. I think the UI kind of reminds me of that. When you first see it, you're like, what the hell is going on here? But then as you look at it, you start to appreciate all the details. And that's exactly where the UI and the sound engine overlap. Because instead of seeing familiar names from audio plugins like high pass filter, saturation, exciter, most of the dials have names that you're maybe a bit less familiar with. So here's a couple of them just to give you an idea. Vinyl drift, inner groove distortion, stylus pinch, worn stylus, RIAA character, RIAA mismatch, and crackle impact. There's more, and we're going to get into all of them. So first, let's listen to the piece of music that I chose to demonstrate all the parameters in Patina. This is a piece called Debbie, and it's inspired by a composition by Bill Evans called Waltz for Debbie. Alright, so like I said earlier, this is Patina completely off, and now we're going to turn it on and listen to the init preset, which adds almost nothing except for some vinyl crackle. Calling it a crackle engine is kind of misleading because it's one of the only plugins that works with sampled crackles. A lot of the vinyl emulation plugins have synthesized crackles, and actually when we were working on Giovanni, a previous multi-effect plugin out on Minta Foundry, the developer tried to convince us that his synthesized engine sounded better than any sample, and I kind of gave him a chance. He sent over a beta version and it sounded terrible. So in Giovanni, we insisted of using our samples, and this plugin, Patina, that we developed ourselves was the perfect opportunity for us to include as many crackle samples as we wanted, and I'm very proud of this. It features 25 different crackles, and all of them I sampled from my own vinyl collection. Now here's how we're going to continue. Instead of going into each parameter individually, which we're going to do in a different episode of this podcast, I'm going to click through the 12 presets that are baked into the release version. First one is called 180 grams audiophile. Next up, acetate state. Dark basement find. And then distortion at its best. Dust biter. Next one's crazy. It's called lacquer. Late response. Next up, living room player. And then one of my favorites, loop digger. Recovered V-disc. And now dusty attic. Wide record. As you can hear, there's tons of different sound design options. They're all based around the sound from my favorite records from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And you know, when I make music, I often imagine like how it would sound if it was pressed to a vinyl. And I have in the past cut samples to vinyl just so I can resample them again, and it works pretty well. It's not too expensive, but you know, there's a turnaround time. You have to send in the samples and then wait for the vinyl to arrive at your house, which is great, and I'm still going to do that also. But sometimes you want that vinyl record sound instantly, and my dream is still to have one day a vinyl cutting machine at my studio. That will be a total game changer, but that's a long process. There's this guy in Germany. He sells vinyl cutting machines that he develops himself. But the only way he agrees to sell you one is if you go to his place and do a 2 or 3 day workshop where you learn how to use the machine. Which sounds kind of weird because we're so used to learning everything online. And I'm like, why don't you just send me a YouTube video? I'll figure it out. But I have to remind myself this is a very old technology, and sometimes it makes sense to learn from the OGs. directly from the OGs. So one day I'll go to his place, learn how to use it, buy a machine, and then have it in my studio. But until then, I'm so happy that we managed to pull this one off. Also, special shout out to Faison, my partner at Minta Foundry. He did a lot of the heavy lifting, especially in the beginning. If it weren't for him, this plugin wouldn't exist. And also, like I said, you haven't seen the UI. It's banging. You'll love it. So shout out to him. All right, that's it for the breakdown. Next week, why do I keep saying next week? As of now, this is not a weekly podcast. Don't get your hopes up. But yeah, in the next episode, we'll do a more classic breakdown. Already know which song it's going to be. So what else happened this week? Yeah, big news from Akai. The MPC sample dropped and it was on everybody's feed. I was slightly salty that I didn't get one sent to because everybody and their dog received one from Akai. I would have made a fire video. You know, the reels where you see my SP404, the old one? That could have just been an MPC sample, not gonna lie. But, you know, it is how it is. I ended up ordering one instead of buying at my local store because it sold out instantly there. So, first impression, tiny, light. I love that. Also, basically the same workflow as on older MPCs. I started learning how to use MPC in around like 2002. It was an MPC 2000 XL. I still have it. I don't actually own it, but I still have it at my studio. So the workflow is very, very similar, except of course you get like effects and stuff, which I'm not like super into. But what I do like, and this is one of the reasons why I bought it, is the internal speaker and microphone. Not for me. I prefer proper mics and proper speakers. Also, they definitely saved some money on the speaker. They should have spent a bit more on that. It's not great. But my kids, they love it. And the first morning we had it, they got to choose breakfast first or try the new machine. They instantly went for the MPC. So that was really funny because they got to use the microphone and sample their voices straight to the pads and then play with it. I showed them how to pitch down a voice, told them this is how you're going to sound in the future, which was funny because my 5-year-old then asked, how does the machine know how I'm going to sound when I'm older? He did understand the phenomenon of voices being lower for older people, but he doesn't know about pitch shifting yet. He doesn't know what changing the pitch of sound means. So yeah, it was pretty fun. And then we also made our first beat. I also learned something this week. I always hated the sound of my floor tom. Like I've never been able to make it sound proper. I always thought like I need a smaller floor tom. And this week I was working on some more jazz stuff, and I also didn't like the sound of my kick for the jazz stuff. So for some reason I was like, why don't I use the floor tom with my kick pedal as a kick drum? And it sounds absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's what I learned this week. And let me just play you a couple bars so you can hear how the drums sound as of now. This is just one mic overhead, no kick drum mic, no nothing else, just one Neumann TLM 103. I find this sound very interesting because you get the boom boom instead of just the boop boop on a normal kick drum. So yeah, I'm excited to keep experimenting with this and learning more stuff. All right, it's time for our next segment. So let's play the trailer music and get right into it. All right, first question comes from Who Diz on Instagram. He wants to know, how can I make sure to mix and master my beats the right way before sending them out? All right, let's talk about mix first. Usually if you pick the right sounds, there's nothing to mix. If you have a good sample that works with the kick, with the snare, with the hi-hat, and the bass, mixing basically means leveling. Because especially in today's production, we usually use pre-sound designed, pre-mixed samples that have been compressed and EQ'd and saturated. So there's really not that much you have to do but learn how to pick the right sounds. And you probably heard this before. It's because it's true. Now, mixing for a song that is going to be released, that's very different when you have to mix a vocal into a song, for example. That's a totally different approach. But for beat making and sample making, picking the right sounds and putting them into the correct relation is a lot more important. Now, mastering, we have to talk about this term first, because not everything you do on the master channel is considered mastering, in my opinion. A lot of it could still be part of the sound design process. For example, if I run a sample through a tape machine, yes, it could technically be considered as a mastering step, but in my mind, that's just adding the correct flavor to all the instruments at once. You shouldn't worry about loudness too much when it comes to beats. It's really not that important, because the engineer who records the vocalist is going to put it into Pro Tools and then turn it down to make headroom for the vocals anyways. So think more about like, what do you want it to sound like in terms of color, maybe also dynamic expression, and less about like how loud should it be compared to other music that you hear. And then, like with everything that you can practice, the goal is basically to get to a point where all the decisions are made subconsciously and intuitively. So to summarize, basically, the more you do something, the less you have to think about it. So I never think about like loudness of bass or piano or whatever. It's just very intuitive. I just put the right levels and then that's it. All right, next question is a follow-up question to the one from Limo from last week's episode. The follow-up is not from him, but I talked to Rock P, a friend of mine, and he said maybe I could elaborate a bit more on how to find inspiration, especially when I've been away from the studio for a while. So this is going to be a good reminder for myself, because I keep forgetting this, and I've learned this so many times already. Whenever I'm uninspired, I have to make sure I take stuff in. So this could be listening to music, different records. It could be practicing, which is also taking in. It's like learning new things. It could be researching gear or recording techniques. So anything that's an input is going to fill up a container. And when it overflows, that's basically my creative output. And sometimes it's very random, like you could feel completely empty, and then you practice something and you find a voicing, and this then sparks an idea. And then ideally, you can act immediately. So you fill up the container, it overflows, and boom, creative output. It sounds very easy when I say it like this. I don't want it to sound like the process of getting inspired is an easy one. It could be very rocky. But in a sense, you just have to trust it. Like, what else can you do? So some of my favorite resources when it comes to taking things in are records that I own. Best is physical vinyl records, because then it's very intentional. You put it on, you listen to it while, cleaning the studio, for example. And then online, it could be radio.com. It's a great website where you can discover music from all around the world, from all decades, and it's just incredible what they have on there. Yeah, this gives me an idea for a new segment. I could go on radio.com, listen to some music, and kind of live react to it, because it's just, I have so many thoughts when I listen to new music that I discover. But this will be for a later episode. And then lastly, practicing instruments you can do by ear. Just listen to the records, try to play it, which is very hard, not gonna lie. Or alternatively, on YouTube, I do recommend learning songs instead of just concepts. So I'm not a huge fan of here's 10 neo-soul chords you should know, because it doesn't teach you the music that can be made with these chords. It's basically like learning words, but not learning how to use them. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense. All right, that's it for this question. If you have questions yourself, don't hesitate to email them to xlhogx@gmail.com or to yo@mintafoundry.com. Just put like question for the podcast in the subject line so I can see it. And with that being said, we're ready for the next segment. Next segment, which I'm very excited about, is highlighting music that I worked on. This is very recent and very exciting because I'm not only a producer on this, but also a primary artist, meaning it shows up in my Spotify page, it counts to my monthly listeners. But the most exciting part about this is that I got to produce the whole thing. I got to engineer, mix, and master, which, to be honest, doesn't happen very often because as sample makers, we're the start of a project. We kind of initiate the idea, but then when you finish your part, you give it away to someone else. And rap music, rap production is a one-way street. Usually doesn't come back, which is a shame, but it's just how it is. So this is our brand new project, us being Barney artist, and myself. Barney is from Forest Gate, London, and he lives in Switzerland now. And he comes to the studio about once a month, sometimes a bit more. We just hang out, we make some music, and we created this new project. It's called Adults. There's going to be a small album out on April 17th called Welcome. And the first single is called Grow Up. And that's what I want to play you right now.
Smoke from the window came down, caused by a verse I laid down. Hoping I'm making funds now. There were times where I would have made now. That's the picture we paint of it. Dip a brush in a rush, that's the main event. Sing a sound from the mountains and take a pic. That's the tail of it. Knowing the pavements are now golden. Thought it was a fluke when I told them I won't involve them. This thing is chosen, my bro. Them. What's the modem? Here's the moment. Keep evolving. Yeah. Time it doesn't stop. Had some in my sock. I trying to grow up. Why can't I grow up? Time it doesn't stop. Had some in my sock. I trying to grow up. Why can't I grow up?
Yeah, wait. One, yeah. 1, 1, 2, 1. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. Yeah.
Never missing the drop, focused always by the people. Believe it or not, feeling the roots. Ask where the truth's at. Bagged in the new, holding tight, will improve that. First of a lineage, kept mirrors by my images. Reflect on what's healing us or killing us. Sensing the snow, I've been sensing the cold. Ends turns to grow, I've been tense on the roads. Hope they maintain, seen it when the roads came. That's the slow lane, seen them in the old days. What's the meaning, man, they won't change? Yeah, I seen them, boy, they won't change. Time it doesn't stop, bro. Had some in my sock. Trying to grow up. Why can't I grow up? Time it doesn't stop. Had some in my sock. Trying to grow up. Why can't I grow up? Believe it or not, believe it or not.
Man, I'm so happy this exists. At the beginning of 2025, I told myself I wanted to release more of my own music. And in my mind, that was going to be instrumental stuff. But then Barney, after the first session we had, he was like, let's make more and release it. And in my mind, I thought, well, he wants to release this as Barney artist. I'm the producer. That's usually my role. And he was very clear, like, we should do this as a duo, create a unique world where we can create music under a name. And then maybe half a year in or so, we came up with the name Adults. There's so many things I could say about why it's called Adults, what it means to us, and why it fits so perfectly. But that's for another time. I'm just excited that we get to make music and can't wait for you to hear the rest. This is it for this week. This is it for this episode. Again, I keep saying week. I'm not sure why. Maybe it means something. Anyway, all I gotta say is follow Minta Foundry on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. If you want to support the show, mintafoundry.com is the best way to do so. Get some packs, get some presets, get some plugins. We have everything you need to make some dope music. And see you next time.